hit a population of a limitation that's almost upon us in the early 60s. We know one more doubling of the human population would destroy all life on Earth. Just around that time, the women's movement took hold. And at first, we were seeking greater identity, greater equality. And we more or less in our culture have achieved, we're a long way towards that. But it's pretty obvious we don't want to be equal to something in a dying world. We don't want to be equal to something in a world that isn't working. Right. So what's happening in the woman, and I also believe in the man, but particularly in the evolving woman, is a rising up of the sexual desire to join your genius to reproduce the species into a supra-sexual creative drive to express yourself, to give your gift, to be more of who you are. And to do that, you have to join your genius, not your genes, but your creativity with other people's genius, two or more. And when you do, it's explosive, it's creative, it's joyful, it's making love at the next level. So I believe that we're experiencing now vocational arousal. Just like we get sexual arousal is nature's way of getting us to reproduce the species. We can't, so we're shifting from maximum procreation to co-creation, from self-reproduction to self-evolution. And I believe just about every woman I know, particularly the ones over 50, 50, 60, 70, I'm 82, this of creativity is a vital force. I'm sure it's a force of nature. And it's a force of love and creativity coming forward in the feminine co-creator, seeking to join team mating rather than just mating, whether with men and women, so that it doesn't go immediately into romantic sexuality. It goes up here into co-creativity. It could have a sexual component, which is better if you're doing this than if you're just doing this.
Yeah, totally.
So I think we may have tapped into nature's greatest force after self-reproduction. Now, that's a lot.
Yeah. It does seem, too, there are women, there's a woman who works for me, and I've talked to younger women as well, who have, to some degree, also chosen not to have children. There are some that are in tune with it, that wanting that kind of connection, not that you can't have children and do that whole thing, but they're actually attuned to this, what you're speaking about as well, which I think is quite interesting. Yeah.
It is, and I've known who are making a very deep social, spiritual decision because part of their body wants to have a baby. Totally. It's really programmed in there. We're wired for wanting to have a baby, and then, but they also want to give birth to that greater creativity. And it's true, if you have a baby, for years, it really takes a lot of your attention. You don't want to have a baby if you're not wanting.
Yeah, totally.
To give that. So I have children starting in 1951. Before I knew anything about any of this, and towards the end, let's say by my fourth or fifth child, I knew something was missing.
Yeah.
Much as I loved my children, what was missing was the vocation. And I think we have unique callings, everybody, every one of us.
Yeah.
As we have a unique genetic code, we have a unique genius code. Very few people have been lucky enough to have that genius code, their creativity expressed. And so that was like the artists and the geniuses and the scientists of the world. Now, my theory is it's going to become millions of us. It is millions of us waking up everywhere. And it's not a new religion. It's not a new organization. It's an emerging person.
Yeah. There's also, it seems too, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like there's almost a tantric element to what you're saying, which is it's not just between the two. There's also this divine connection. So there's an awakening, I feel in myself, in my own evolution, like I'm awakening spiritually and I'm awakening to more of my essential self. Out of my partnering with Jeff, Jeff is my teaching partner, and we totally have this relationship So it
Yes.
seems like there's a triangle element to it. I don't know if that's well said, but
I agree. And the way I think of it is, my favorite map is the spiral
yeah.
of evolution. And here's our turn on the spiral. Well, running through that spiral is a core or a consciousness force or an implicate order or impulse of evolution, as Andrew calls it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that impulse of evolution is the driving force of evolution, of which the external world is continually manifesting higher order, higher consciousness. What's happening to me and millions of us is that impulse of evolution that used to break through in very great special people, avatars, religious founders, scientists, visionaries, artists, is breaking through in millions of us as a yearning to express our own creativity, not somebody else's. And that creativity coming from the impulse of creation is like the creator within, the God within. And the God within, in that older language, wants to create. And if it doesn't want to procreate, it's going to want to create. So for me, co-creation is a high spiritual path.
Absolutely. And like you said, the feeling, because I'm in the midst of it. I'm actually, it's interesting too, like as a 59-year-old woman, right? Feeling this new level of having suitors, of like, these men that I want to create with. And it's so divine because it is sexy. I mean, there's a really sexy, yummy, ecstatic part to it.